Hello, everybody. How are you? You're alive. And I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I'll give it a minute to pop up over on YouTube. And 4 weeks ago or so, I put out a call first to some of my patrons who wanted specific book recommendations, and then to kind of a bunch of you. Y'all came back in spades. I got so many responses in very specific book recs you were looking for, types of books. So I am not going to be able to get to everybody who put out things that they were looking for, but I did pick a few from the sort of open call, and then I'm prioritizing the patrons for this. But I think it's going to be fun. We've got a wide range of kinds of books and specific things that people were looking for, and I decided let's just go ahead and do this as a live stream. So if you are here and you want to say hello, feel free to hop in the comments. Hey Tara, how are you? And hopefully they will come up on my end. I don't see any others yet. Okay, so today I've got 20, well, not 20 books, because for some of the recommendations I have multiple titles that I'm recommending, but I've got 20 people that I am responding to, giving them book recommendations. Hello, hello. So hopefully this will be fun for everyone, and I've got lots of books stacked up next to me. I also did put all of the books in the video description before I went live, so if you're looking for any, there should be links to get them there. And I have physical copies of most of them. I think there's a couple that I don't have physical copies of, so it should be fun. Hello. Yes, it is. And I mean, I'll be honest, like there are a couple that I was like, this isn't exactly what you're looking for, but we're gonna get as close as possible. I was just amazed at how many people had some things. So I tried to pick some interesting ones and some of the ones that had a lot of thumbs ups that other people seemed interested in. And we are going to go ahead and do this. Hello, welcome. I'm glad you're able to join. Hey, cool gamer. All right, so for our very first one, I actually, because I told some of my patrons if they wanted to, for a few of them because of like a perk thing, that if they wanted to send me a video request, they could. And so one person took me up on that, and I am going to show you that video file. And let me just pull it up here, and then I will respond to that one to start. This is from Cara at Wild Book Garden. So once I hit open, it should just play.
Sydney, it's Cara from Wild Book Garden, and my very specific request is so specific that like I kind of have like an either or situation for you, because any combination of recommendations with these things would be great. So I would love to have books that have a positive portrayal of either like textile crafts or like fiber crafts, so like, you know, knitting, weaving, embroidery, anything like that, and or a positive portrayal of makeup and beauty. And like it'd be great if that was like a pretty significant focus of the book, but I understand if it's not. And honestly, I'd love this in any genre, especially if it was not contemporary, just because I feel like it's a little more common in contemporary, but that would also be okay. You know, like historical fiction, speculative fiction, anything like that. And it would probably be pretty hard to find stories where that is like central to the plot, or to the characterization. Like basically if it's anything more than a passing mention, I will be thrilled. So I'd love to have some recommendations for these if you can find them. I know it's very hard to find them because I've been trying to for a long time.
Okay, so thanks, Cara. Go check her out if you don't. She's amazing. And Cara, I do have a couple of recommendations for you. So that is what we're going to start with. So first up, positive depictions of textile arts. The first thing that came to mind for this was The Lady's Guide to Celestial Mechanics by Olivia Waite. This is a sapphic historical romance, and one of the main characters is a really talented embroiderer. And so it's got these great descriptions of embroidery and has some cool discussions of embroidery as art, that like these forms of crafts aren't always taken as seriously because they're viewed as women's work. So this would be my biggest recommendation for you, Cara. I think this could be really good for that. And then for the beauty thing, this is a little bit trickier. I have a couple of suggestions that might not be exactly what you were going for, but take them as you will. One is Binti by Nnedi Okorafor. This is interesting because it talks about things she does as beautification rituals, but that are also culturally specific and like cultural practices with this very specific kind of mud that she makes. Also, this is just great. Nadia Corafor writes really interesting science fiction, so that might be something. And then my one other suggestion for this is The Perks of Loving a Wallflower by Erica Ridley, because this one has a character who does a lot of disguises. So it's not necessarily beauty so much in the way you're talking about, I think, but there is this focus on changing your appearance for different purposes, which I think could maybe be interesting. So I don't know that these are like exactly what you're looking for, but I tried to find something. But I do think that this book is really great and would kind of give you what you're looking for. So once I'm done with all this, I'm gonna have to put all these books away. So that'll be exciting. Okay, the rest of them are not video requests. Okay, so Renee wanted a book with a talking animal companion, or at least one with enough of a personality where you feel they're a character too, and they don't die at the end, please. Gotcha. This is something that was a little bit harder. I think you see this a lot more in children's literature than you do in adults books. And so I have a middle grade book for you that does this. And I checked your Goodreads and it doesn't say you've read it. I did check because Renee, I know you read a lot of stuff. My suggestion is Eva Evergreen, Semi-Magical Witch by Julie Abe. This is really adorable, very found family magic. It's about a girl who has a pinch of magic going on her novice witch quest, and she does have an animal companion who is a flame fox, and he is adorable. And he doesn't exactly speak, but sort of does. Like sometimes in italics, you get what she thinks he's saying with his like expressions and things that he does. So I feel like he really feels like a character. So I think this might give you what you're looking for, and it's really cute. Would recommend. Next up, Brianna from For Paws in a Book asked for something with steampunk vibes, preferably adult. Bonus points if it's queer. I can give you all of those things. And I did check your Goodreads as well, and I don't think you've read this. So hold on. Oh, okay. Vicky, this is a great suggestion. And if y'all have like added things that you want to throw out for the requests, The Spare Man by Mary Robinette Kowal does have a great dog who feels like a character. I would agree with this. I didn't think about that, but yes, agreed. It's great. Yeah, it's very cute. Okay, so steampunk vibes, adult, queer. Brianna, you need to read The Parasol Protectorate by Gail Carriger. There's an entire series, there's spin-off series. They're really fun. They're set in an alternate version of Victorian London, have kind of a tongue-in-cheek sense of humor. There's romance, there's queer characters. Some of the spin-offs focus on the queer characters more, but it's like steampunk plus paranormal creatures like vampires and werewolves and ghosts and stuff. And it's delightful. So if you haven't tried Gail Carriger, I would recommend this one. All right, let's see, where are we at? Beth wanted, okay, this is one that was tough. I have one book that I think hits most of the things you're looking for. But Beth said adult fantasy or sci-fi, romance on the side with low steam, which with much older protagonists. Gods and elves don't count if they're still acting YA. Okay, so Beth, my suggestion for you is The Return of the Sorceress by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. The characters are middle-aged. They definitely are acting their age, and it's not very long. You can't get the physical copy is out of print. This was a limited run, but you can get the Kindle version on Amazon if you want to read it. And I love Sylvia Moreno Garcia. Again, not super long, but it does have sort of what you're looking for with the older characters. It's got a little bit of a side romance, enemy with like enemies, and yeah, I think you would enjoy this. So that was as close as I as I could get for that request. Next up, and if anybody in the comments has another thing that would hit all of those points, please let me know, because I realized I don't have as many of those. And you know, I know it's middle-aged isn't necessarily as old as you might have been hoping for, but that is a tough one to hit. Okay. Trina. Trina wanted an this is another one where I'm like, "Ugh," I sort of cobbled together some answers that aren't 100% what she was looking for. Trina asked for an adult fantasy or dystopia series with found family, high stakes, grumpy heroine, sunshine hero, hopefully part of a series, but standalones work too. Okay, that was a lot of asks. So I couldn't think of something that specifically hit all of that, but I do have a couple of suggestions that I think might come close. The first one is part of a duology of companion novels, but the second one doesn't really give you the same thing. But Empire of Sand by Tasha Suri is fantastic. This is adult fantasy. It does have high stakes. It's got a kind of grumpy heroine. Like, I think the hero heroine are like less extreme versions of what you're asking for. But I do think you would enjoy this. And I don't think you've read this yet. I checked. So that would be my first recommendation. The other one that I think would really give you the grumpy sunshine thing you're looking for, but where they're both heroines, is Malice by Heather Walter. This is a sort of reimagining of Sleeping Beauty from the perspective of the witch, who is really just like a misunderstood, grumpy young woman. And I really loved it. So I think this would give you those sorts of relationship dynamics, but where there's like both, but with both women. So those are my suggestions for that. The Conductors. Yeah, The Conductors is good. Is this for like the older characters piece of this? Um, yeah, and it is low steam. I think that could be a good one. I don't know how old they are. I want to say like 30s. But that is a good book. It's a good suggestion. Okay, Tanya asked for a steamy historical romance with a submissive hero. I've got a couple for you because I do like those as well. My first one I don't have a physical copy of. It is The Duke I Tempted by Scarlett Peckham. This is a steamy historical romance with a hero who is secretly into being a submissive at like an underground BDSM club. So there's that. My other suggestion is Would I Lie to the Duke by Eva Lee. This is another one that has a hero who is submissive in the bedroom, but it's a little more light than the other one. This is also just really fun. And I think it is good because it balances out some of the power dynamics in the relationship, because he is a man and wealthy in this time period, and she is working class. And so I think that makes for like some nice power dynamics. So 2 recommendations for you if you're looking for that. Tara asked for older characters that act their age, a grumpy heroine, no miscommunication, and vampires. I could, I could not come up with something with vampires. Sorry. But I do have something with older characters who act their age with a grumpy heroine and really not much miscommunication. It is The Care and Feeding of Waspish Widows by Olivia Waite. This is another one that is a sapphic historical romance. These are older women, they're middle-aged. It's really lovely. One of them is kind of, gruff and grumpy a little bit, and they have this very slow burn friends to lovers sort of romance that is lovely, but it doesn't really have the miscommunication trope. So that would be my suggestion for you. All right. Also, I'm realizing I probably should go ahead and put my phone on Do Not Disturb because I did not think to do that before I went live. So we're going to do that right now. Okay, cool. Next request is from Melanie from a book fiend called Mel. Go check her out. Anybody who I know their channels, I did link them in the video description down below, so you can go and follow them if you want. Melanie wanted a romance between people who are over 25 years old, not fake dating or miscommunication, that could be easily fixed by just one conversation. Okay, so Mel, I have 2 recommendations for you. My first one is one that just came out. It is Shipwrecked by Olivia Dade. Oh, okay, like a note from the bookstore I bought this from. Shipwrecked by Olivia Dade is really, really lovely. The characters are like in their 30s, and it's kind of a slow burn. They don't have fake dating. They have like a one night stand and then decide they can't be in a relationship because they're playing opposite each other on a television show and they don't want to make work stuff weird. But when the show ends, after like 7 years together on a deserted island filming on set, that's when the relationship happens. So this does cover like a long range of time. It's fantastic. And I think it hit all of the things. Yeah. There's not really the miscommunication so much. That's not really, yeah. So Shipwrecked is a great one. The other suggestion for this is Just Like This by Cole McCade. It is a male-male romance between two faculty members at an all-boys boarding school. There is external conflict in this one, which I really like, that they're trying to figure out what's going on with a student that they're concerned about, and they're working together to try to help him. I love this. It does have very flowery language and it's very emotional, which is not everybody's cup of tea in romance, but I thought this was really good. And again, it's got that more external conflict, which I think lends itself to less of the miscommunication thing. So we have a suggestion for this of Chef's Kiss by TJ Alexander. I haven't read that one, but that could be a good one. All right. Next up, we had Aaron from Ramblin' Reader, and Aaron asked for, let's see, oh, we have another one, Shards of Honor by Lewis McMaster Bujold, and its companion is a sci-fi with older main characters that has a romance subplot, part of a series that later follows their son. Thank you. Amazing. I love this. Let's just like crowdsource answers for the ones that I don't have everything for. Aaron wanted a romance where one main character initially pursues a character for whatever reason, but oops, falls for their sibling instead. Okay. So I have a couple of suggestions for you that is like very specific. I love it. I have two different versions of this. I don't know that either of them is exactly what you're looking for, because you said Viscount Who Loved Me style, but I think these might work for you. In a contemporary version, If the Shoe Fits by Julie Murphy is kind of like Cinderella meets The Bachelor with the plus size heroine. I really enjoyed it. It's low steam. It's really fun. But one thing about this is that her and her stepsister, I think, are both contestants on the show, but they're friends. So he dates both of them and ends up with her. So it like kind of falls into what you're saying. And then the other option is Forbidden Promises by Sunithia Williams. This is where a woman ends up with her older sister's ex-husband. So lots of drama, but it's done really well. It like you would think that it doesn't cause problems in the ways you would expect between the sisters. And I think Sunithia Williams does fun, steamy, dramatic, like soapy kind of romances really well. So this would be a suggestion for that. Let's look at the comments. Okay, yeah, House on the Cerulean Sea. That is accurate. Yep. All right. Stephanie wanted queer space operas with snarky dialogue, a la Alex White's The Salvagers or Rebecca Coffindaffer's Crown Chasers. Okay, so Stephanie, my kind of go-to recommendation for you is one that I think you've already read, but yes, same. I like that the stepsisters aren't mean. They actually like each other. Agreed. But I do like retelling. Anyway, so this is one, Stephanie, I think you've already read, but Gideon the Ninth by Tam Senior, for anybody who's looking for snarky dialogue, queer space opera. This isn't, I don't know. The first one is less of a space opera. It's more like horror murder mystery, but I think it kind of fits the vibe, and you did give it 5 stars. So I think my gut instinct was not a terrible one. My other suggestion is less queer. It does have some queer characters, but I think it does, but it's fun. It is a space opera. It's fast paced, and it does have some of that snarky dialogue. The Collapsing Empire by John Scalzi. like not all the characters are queer, but there are some queer characters in this book, so it might be one to try if that's the vibe you're looking for. I wish I had more to give you, but that was kind of on short notice what I could come up with. All right. Alexia asked for a heist book or a book where a group of people have to come together, even if they don't like each other, to complete some kind of plan, preferably adult. Cool. I have two recommendations for this one. My first one is Foundry Side by Robert Jackson Bennett. This does have some like heist elements to it. It's adult fantasy with not quite steampunk vibes, but like some interesting, more mechanized magic system things. And then my other suggestion, if you haven't read it yet, is The Lies of Locke Lamora by Scott Lynch. This one also has heist elements to it, plus a lot of political intrigue in unexpected ways. It's got found family. I think this is a really good one. So those would be my two suggestions for that recommendation. Would Saga count? Maybe, maybe. Queer space opera with snarky dialogue? Possibly. Yeah, I could see that. But yeah, Founder Side is good. Yeah, I agree. Winter's Orbit is amazing, but yeah, it's less snarky. It is a great book though. All right. Next up, Reading Ace asked for low magic, female or non-binary main character, little to no romance, just vibes. Okay, got it. Oh, this is interesting. A heist manga I really liked is Liar Game, so maybe check that out. Okay, so it's hard to find things that don't have any romance, but I have things where the romance is very low key and it's not the main thing. So, easy suggestion is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This is magical but pretty low magic, cozy slice of life fantasy. There is a romance, but it's subtle and it's not like it's a chill. It's a pretty chill romance and a whole lot of vibes. So I think that could be a great recommendation for you. Another one is Empress of Salt and Fortune by Niveau. This one also has magic, but it's not a high magic system. It's a pretty short one. There's more books in the series, but this one especially, the characters are non-binary and female, the main characters, and not a ton of romance. So this could be a good option. A lot of vibes. And then my final recommendation, I think, is a great book. However, I know with where you live, you might have a hard time getting your hands on this book because it is out of print. And that is The Perilous Guard by Elizabeth Marie Pope. This is classic YA sort of fantasy. It's set in the 1500s. It does have sort of a romance, but that's really not the main point of it. But it's got like old fae stuff and lots of vibes. So those would be my suggestions. The audiobook is more accessible than the physical book because it's out of print, but maybe that would be one to check out. I agree with this. There should be more things where the relationship. Yeah, I agree. We probably could stand to have more of those. Cool. First Sister. Oh, I've been wanting to read First Sister, but that's great to know. First Sister by Lyndon Lewis is fantastic and fits this. Great. Yeah. All right. What is next? Okay, so that takes me through all of the requests from patrons and channel members, and then I picked a handful of the requests that I put out publicly for people, and I'm going to respond to those. Some people have, I will tell you their handle, other people I won't, and I'll give you my suggestions. So the first request was a fantasy with strong platonic friendships. And I've got a couple of suggestions for this one. First is A Spindle Splintered by Alex E. Harrow. This is an interesting take on Sleeping Beauty that is also talking about disability. It's got a strong platonic friendship between two queer girls who sort of tried being together but are better friends than anything else, and I really liked it. I think that that could be a good one. And my other suggestions for this, I think more people should read, this was fantastic, is The Bone Spindle by Leslie Vedder. Oh, you know what's funny? I just I just realized both of these are Sleeping Beauty retellings. So this is like Indiana Jones meets Sleeping Beauty, but it's gender bent and queer. These two girls are friends, and there is a sleeping prince who is put to sleep by a curse that they're trying to save. And their relationship is fantastic. And this is such a blast. So I would suggest checking that one out for sure. Um, oh yeah, that's a good suggestion. Founder's Side could also fit fantasy with strong platonic friendships. Agreed. Okay. Ray from Bookmark Chronicles asked for a romance without a third act breakup and minimum miscommunication. My go to, if you haven't read it yet, you really should, everyone should read it, this is fantastic, is Radiance by Grace Draven. This is an amazing indie published fantasy romance, and it is a political marriage of convenience that is they become friends and they eventually become lovers. The conflict is external. They have an amazing relationship. They communicate really well. There's not a third act breakup. It's a great option for that. Okay. The Librarian of Alexandria asked for a book that feels like a hug, and I have two suggestions for this. These I love books like this, books that feel like a hug. I think some people don't because they don't have enough plot, but I am a fan. Yeah, I couldn't remember. It's been a while since I read Actor A.G. Brown, so maybe. I'm not sure. No, this is not Alan. This is the Librarian of Alexandria, not the Library of Alexandria. So there's two booktubers that have very similar names, but no. My other suggestion for this though, or my two suggestions. So Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree, which I mentioned earlier. This feels like a hug. It's very cozy, very slice of life, charming. I enjoyed it. And then my other suggestion for this, if you want a book that feels like a hug, is This Duology, A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers and A Prayer for the Crown Shy. So good. Like so good. So, I would suggest checking out those if you haven't. And Becky Chambers in general, I think, does a lot of really good, cozy books that kind of feel like a hug. So definitely go check that out. Next request was for a book. Oh, here we go. Okay, Witch Hat Atelier. I haven't read Heartstopper. I know I probably should read that at some point, but yeah, love it. I can see that. Request for Gothic literature with queer characters and an ominous cult vibe in the air. A book to read if you liked Catherine House. I loved Catherine House. I thought it was great. I have a couple of suggestions for this. I don't know that I would quite call them Gothic, but I feel like they're Gothic adjacent and would probably still kind of give you what you're looking for. And I think if you liked Catherine House, you have a decently good chance of liking the books I'm going to suggest. A Lady for a Oh yeah! That is actually that's a great suggestion. A Lady for a Duke is a great romance with no third act breakup. Good. Yes. Love it. All right. So two suggestions. The Year of the Witching by Alexis Henderson. I really loved this. It's kind of a horror fantasy hybrid. It has queer characters. It's got the ominous cult vibe. It actually does have kind of a cult that's central to the plot. And it's one that I would suggest for people who enjoyed Catherine House. And then my other suggestion for this is Sarland by Rivers Solomon. This is another one that has horror and cult vibes. And it's weird. It's very weird, but it is layered and brilliant and saying a lot of things. So I would suggest this, and it's also very, very queer. So those would be my two recommendations for that request if you loved Catherine House and you're looking for something else. Yeah, Bunny by Mona Awad isn't gothic but hits the other elements. Yep, I think that could work as well. Um, yes. Look up content warning for, yeah, anxious people. I did not get on well with anxious people, but a lot of people feel this way. So, like, check content warnings though and see if it um, might be for you possibly. Uh, yeah, that was what I thought. Okay, few more to go. Somachi 5123 asked for a black love romance where both or one of the characters isn't in a typical office job. Okay, I have two suggestions for you. One of which I already mentioned in this live, Forbidden Promises. One of them has a more regular office job from what I remember, but the heroine is a violinist. So that would give you something a little bit different. Black love romance. In fact, Sanithia, all of her books are black love romance, and characters do a variety of things. So you could go check out her books if you haven't yet. And then my other suggestion is Nobody's Princess by Erica Ridley, which is a lot of fun. It's a rompy good time. It's a historical, and our heroine is a bodyguard to a princess, and, well, or like training to be a bodyguard, and our hero does like um, undercover intelligence gathering type stuff. So those would both be some interesting suggestions. Agreed. The conductors would also fit for this. It's a murder mystery with a romance kind of between two black people that is also historical, like it's alternate history fantasy, um, where they do other things. Lavender House by Lev A.C. Rosen. That is such a great book. And yeah, I think that could be an interesting one if you're looking for queer characters. Maybe. That one's more of a mystery, I think, than what I would think for Gothic, but it is a good book. It's worth picking up. Okay. Next up, we have a desert fantasy that actually takes place in a desert. And another one that I mentioned earlier, but Empire of Sand by Tasha Suri. It takes place in a desert, and in a buildings in a desert, and it's amazing. This is also a really slow burn fantasy romance that's friends to lovers, and it's beautiful. Tasha Suri is amazing, so would recommend. Um, okay, two more requests, and we're doing good. I'm impressed that I got through this many this quickly. I thought it would take longer, so I'm glad this is going so well. Rachel from the Shades of Orange booktube channel asked for queer horror that is legitimately scary. Rachel, I listen. I feel like you and I have different definitions of what's scary, so I don't know that these books will be scary for you, but I found them a little bit scary, and I think other people might as well. But I think it's going to be hard because yeah, you read so much horror. I don't know if they're scary for you, but I think they're great queer horror, and one of them is very underrated, which I'll say second. First up, Sawkill Girls by Claire Legrand, and actually both of these are YA horror, but I think have some genuinely scary moments in them. They're both very queer. This one has like a creepy island where girls are disappearing, and like there's some creepy scenes in this. I absolutely loved this novel, so I would check that out. And then one that I feel like really should be read by more people, and I will recommend it every chance I get because it has so few ratings and it's amazing, is The Nightingale by Amy Lukovics. This is queer horror set in the 1950s. It follows a young woman, a girl who is put into an institution by her parents because she refuses to uh, marry her boyfriend. So, and it's really creepy. Yeah, those would be my two suggestions. Queer horror that I think genuinely is scary at times. Not always, but I think there are at least scary scenes in that. You may disagree, but I tried. If you want great horror recommendations in sci-fi, go check out Rachel's channel because she's amazing. All right, last request that I had was for a romance with two fat leads. And again, I've got to recommend Shipwrecked by Olivia Dade. It's got a fat heroine and a fat hero. I love the way that Olivia Dade does fat representation. I also really love her heroes. They feel like people. They're not alpha males. So for people who are looking for that, like that, you're not really going to find it there. But her heroes feel like fully fleshed people. They don't feel like a collection of tropes. And I love her relationships. I also love the way that she writes steamier scenes because they feel embodied but not fetishizing fatness. So I think she does a really good job of kind of walking that line in the way that she writes her romances. So I would suggest this one. I think there are others. I know Rebecca Weatherspoon writes quite a few with plus size characters, but that was the main one that I've read myself that I know for sure does that. So hopefully y'all got some good suggestions in the live. Thank you for hanging out with me. And thank you so much for submitting your requests. I know I had a lot more than I was able to get to here. So maybe at some point I'll do this again and try to get to some of those other requests. But it's always fun to have a reason to chat about books that I love. So thanks for doing this. Yay. I'm glad you enjoyed. Again, all the books that I mentioned today, other than ones that people in the chat mentioned, are linked in the video description if you are looking for them. And I hope you have a wonderful week and fantastic Thanksgiving. I'll see you all later. Bye.